we got to talk about Spain, who I think was my favorite watch of this entire tournament. I adored how they played, just fluid, confident, decisive, versatility all over the floor. There was good talent throughout the roster, but I think Hugo Gonzalez, Aday Mara, and Lucas Langarita were their three biggest performers, at least for me. So with this Spain team, where do you want to start?
Let's talk about Hugo because I can barely hold it in anymore. I loved Hugo. I mean, this dude was just like that was the play you just showed. Literally, it was 2-2, and I remember I watched that, and I think I literally texted you, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm already in love with Hugo." Like he just played the game with poise. I loved how he was aggressive. He was fearless. He was confident. And then all of a sudden he had a couple plays where his athleticism just was like, oh shit, this dude's trying these dunks, this fast break dunk. I was like, where did that come from? And I was really, really intrigued with his game. Obviously, like Spain and a lot of guys overseas, they have a lot of really fascinating. This was my favorite one. For everyone listening that can't see it, I literally wrote this sequence down. So that sequence was defensive rebound, throws a gorgeous bounce pass up in transition. The point guard goes up for a contested layup, airballs it. Hugo comes flying out of nowhere. He catches the ball in midair, throws down an oop. And then my favorite part was the next possession. Spain gets a stop, defensive rebound. Hugo's literally the last person, like line, on the court. He's closest to the opposing baseline. They throw the ball up, guys shooting a three in the corner, and you see this guy just fly from off the screen. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Hugo. And he looked like he was just trying to throw down like the biggest tomahawk, but he ends up missing it, steps out of bounds, and then he just was like frustrated. But that stuff pops because that's just giving a shit. That's just high effort guys. And, he had the rest of the game besides that. And one of my favorite sequences was he had an and one and just walked towards his bench and just started screaming at the top of his lungs. Like he's a madman and he has the game to back it up. But I told you guys I was barely holding it in. What about you, Metcalf? Hit me with it.
He was just so much fun. Just the constant effort, the athleticism was incredible. And it's all really functional stuff where there's really impressive vertical pop, but then there's really controlled and like balanced lateral movements with Euro steps and avoiding contact, getting to the rim. I wanted him to just be a little more consistent with his at rim finishing.
Yes.
But again, it's like, okay, he's 16. He's a 2005 birthday. I believe he's 17 in December. But it was just awesome. He was just so much fun. Like I said, all of the athleticism was functional. He was constantly using it in a variety of ways. And then he really fit in with that Spain team because of the way that he knew where everyone was on the floor and the way that he constantly moved the ball. He was another one of these guys where he was making quick decisions every time he touched the ball, and it was almost always the right decision. The shot was a little inconsistent.
Yep.
But the base of it, the foundation of it, I think is really good. And if he continues to just kind of get that more consistent, like most teenagers tend to do, then that becomes a real weapon. And that just opens up so many doors for him because like we saw in those clips, he's already so comfortable with the shot fake and drive. And then he can score. He can not, stop on a dime and pull up in the mid range. He can dump off. He can kick out to teammates. So it was just a really impressive all around game.
He just has some veteran swagger to his game of like, okay, hit this three. Next time I'm going to pump fake you, make you collapse, dump off to the big man. Like he just, like you said, he knows exactly what he wants to do with the ball. He knows exactly how to make everyone kind of react to him. I love how aggressive he is. I feel like I watched a game too where he tried to dunk on someone kind of rejected him and they called a foul, but I think he was like kind of shocked of like, whoa, okay. I didn't know you could jump like that, but he was just so aggressive. And he was one of all the teams I watched. I was like, that's one of the top names I'm keeping an eye on, especially with the international prospects. I love them. He's the shot definitely needs to come around a little bit more consistent, a little bit quicker. But if he could do that and finish, everything else was so impressive for someone that age. I was like, okay, he's checking a ton of boxes. But yeah, love them. Let's get away from him before I talk too much.
All right, Langarita or Mara? Who do you want?
Talk to me about Langarita. You're high on him, Metcalf. You're being cautious. I have a feeling you might have a little bit of a crush on Lucas.
I love this kid.
Yeah. See, I told you I can read you.
I love this kid. Just nasty shooter, and then I think he's on like the same level of athlete as Hugo. I think he's really impressive straight line speed, and then he is dunking on guys consistently. He's finishing above the rim, solid passer, and he just blows by. Who was that? I couldn't see the name, but someone on France there, and just I thought his shot was already way more developed than where Hugo's is at. I think the defense was a little more inconsistent than Hugo's, but still really solid with his positioning and his work rate and all of that. So this is a kid who I was just really impressed with his constant movement on and off ball. I thought his ball handling and kind of creation in the mid range and ability to get to the rim was really impressive. I loved the way this kid played.
It was funny because watching him, Hugo's number 16, Lucas is number 12. And I swear every time I looked up and someone was throwing down a dunk, I was like, oh, is that Hugo? And then I was like, oh, it's damn Langarita again. Like, but he's nasty. And I wrote down like really good feel. I love the way he plays. I was like sneaky athleticism. He really gets nasty. I like a lot of the tools with his game. And then I even wrote down classic Spanish player with good feel and tools, and you start to fall in love.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the more I kept watching him, the more I was like, he's just nasty and he's a competitor. And I love the aggressiveness. And I thought the shot was solid, rock solid from outside. And, but I knew it. I could tell. I was like, Metcalf's in love with this guy. I get it. Not to be weird. He's in love with him as a prospect.
Phrasing. Yeah. And just, the confidence and the biggest thing for me was just how much the athleticism popped with him.
Yeah.
And the way that he used it to kind of get into his shots in the mid range and get to the rim. It was something that I really wasn't expecting from him, because when you first look at him, you're like, okay, he's probably a shooter. But then he finds a lane, he bursts into it. It's like, oh shit, he just blew past that guy. And then you see him dunk it on the, rotating weak side defender. It's like, oh, where did that come from? And it's just really impressive all around game that I wasn't expecting from him. I think he might be one of these guys where he could be kind of reliant on, another couple inch growth spurt in the next couple of years. And if that doesn't come, then yikes, then maybe he's just a really good Spanish league player, which nothing wrong with by any means, but I don't know, it'll be really interesting to see how his kind of game develops over the next year or two.
Oh gosh, if he grows a couple inches, I'm gonna be like, oh boy, here we go. Because I mean, he plays that way.
Yeah.
He plays the game with all the tools, but if he doesn't, you might be looking at a guy that you're like, okay, I guess he's just going to be a superstar in the EuroLeague for 15 years. But I really, really liked his game. You saw a couple of those plays, like defensively, like dude is just a demon. Like he is going to play until the whistle. Like he just plays his butt off. So I really, really liked him. He kept impressing for sure. I just knew that you were going to be in love with him. I knew it.
All right. Well, the other guy on Spain who drew a lot of attention was Aday Mara. I think he's 7'2" center, 2005 birthday, 17 years old. Talk to me about Mara.
I loved him. And I usually don't love guys like this, with like prospects like this, with this kind of skill set. for everyone listening, he's like Metcalf says, 7'2", 7'3". Obviously, he's just bigger than everyone. He's kind of not heavy. I don't know if heavy-footed or slow-footed. Because like he showed some good feet. It's just he's so damn big, and you're, that young, getting used to everything. But I thought his fundamentals and some of the stuff he showed was sensational. He had some passes where I was like, okay, big fella, like really good touch. I thought the shot didn't look too bad. The thing is, with big guys that are this young, and from like having experience with a guy like this overseas, that advanced with some of the skills at that young of an age, I was like, oh my goodness. Like that's where I'm like, because they usually click at really different times. So if he has all of that already, like kind of brewing, I mean, there's some really intriguing stuff. Now he's got to get quicker. He's more of like a drop down big right now. Like drop coverage, the mobility's got to eventually one day come around, but just that skilled, with some of those foundational pieces to develop. I was very, very impressed. And he just kept making plays each game. I was like, dang, that was a nice play. Like, what about you, Metcalf? I feel like now you're going to tell me I'm crazy, but you're probably just still drinking some of that haterade when it comes to the bigs.
No, I liked him. I was hesitant right away because I think the first game I saw, he only had a few minutes and didn't really make a ton of impact. And he had like a top of the arc 3 where he just clanked it in straight off the backboard. I'm like, oh God, no, is that his touch?
Yeah.
And then like his first like 4 baskets were just him simply being 4 inches taller than anyone else on the court. But then you started seeing him operate from the elbow and some of his post footwork. And I thought he was the most creative passer in this entire tournament, regardless of position. The way he finds cutters is really impressive. The quick decision-making, common theme with all these Spanish guys. And the post footwork was incredible. I thought his touch inside the lane and from kind of the mid-range on jumpers was so much better than that clanked in 3 that he showed. And the defense, it's all about what he does at the rim. If he gets dragged out to space, that's where I think things get kind of messy and kind of gross. And that's where the slow, heavy feet, high hips come into play. And he can't really move unless he's dropping to the rim and then using that length. So I liked him. I didn't love him. I think he needs to get a little stronger, needs to figure out how to move in space a little better. But the basketball IQ, the timing and ball location when protecting the rim was really impressive. And then I just couldn't get over how impressive it was. His ability to pivot multiple times, keep that pivot foot down, and take multiple steps with the other foot to extend that extra 4, 5, 6 inches to finish with like a reverse layup when he should have had no business doing so.
Yeah, he just checked a lot of boxes because I'm like you. I went into that and right away I was like, oh gosh, just this like lumbering big man on Spain that's just going to be bigger than everyone. And then he started making some passes and showing some stuff that I was like, my goodness, all right, you got my attention. And then he just, one of those guys, the more I watched, the more I kept being like, yes, all right, I'm in. And he's on the right path. He's going to have to keep developing and like you said, get a little bit quicker. But I think there's definitely long-term upside for him to become a serious like NBA asset or NBA target. But you never know with these guys. They just need everything to kind of fall into place. But the passing, the feel, the fundamentals, a lot of stuff. I was like, okay, these are really good foundational pieces. He just needs to kind of let everything groom together.